This episode of WDW Today is being sponsored by www.wdwwallpaper.com, which is an app from the iTunes store which allows pictures from Walt Disney World on your iPhone, iPad, or iTouch for just 99 cents. Enjoy the magic of Disney World every day. WDW Pix brings over 40 high-quality photos to your device to use as backgrounds and wallpapers. Wallpapers from Magic Kingdom, Animal Kingdom, Disney's Hollywood Studios, Epcot, and the Disney Resorts. Disney World images right on your iPhone or iPad. www.wdwwallpaper.com.
This is Walt Disney World Today. Give us 5 minutes and we'll give you the world.
It's Monday, September 6th, 2010, and this is episode 769 of WDW Today. I'm Matt Hochberger from StudioCentral.com. A very happy Labor Day to all of our listeners. And joining me on today's show is a Mike Newell of Mouse World Radio. Mike, how are you spending your Labor Day today?
Probably editing and catching up on some shows. And to our friends in the UK, happy Monday.
Happy Monday. Also joining us on today's show is Mike Scopa, a senior feature writer and blogger for allears.net. Welcome, Mike.
You are riding on the winds where the universe begins through the atoms that we pose in the heartbeat of a rose.
Magic Journeys?
Sounds Epcot-y to me.
Magic Journeys?
Magic Journeys.
Ooh.
Not even close.
Well, it was an Epcot.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Like
it was there first.
I love the new word, Epcot-y.
Epcot-y.
I love that.
Epcot-y. It sounds Epcot-y to me. It sounds like a scone with a dash of chocolate in it.
Yeah, give me the chocolate Epcot-y,
please. next to the Zebra Dome.
Also joining us on today's show is Annette Owens, a fabulous manager of customer relations and group services for MEI and Mouse Fan Travel. Happy Labor Day, Annette.
Hey, yep, I'm laboring really hard. I'm packing up so I can go down to Florida tomorrow.
Oh, will I be seeing you?
I hope so.
Ooh, I'm excited now.
I hope so. I'm glad. I'm glad you're happy to see me.
Oh, yeah, you. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
On today's show, we're going to be talking about advance notice and how far in advance, really, you'll need to book certain things at Walt Disney World. There's lots of different things you can book at Walt Disney World, and they all have kind of different rules, if you want to call it that. Not so much rules, suggestions, best practices for booking in advance. And there's quite a bit. And let's start with the obvious one, the one that I think we talk about the most on this show, and everyone's really talking about all the time, which is ADRs, advanced dining reservations. Those are the reservations that you can make at Walt Disney World restaurants. And let's start with Scopa. Scopa, when we're talking about ADRs, what do you recommend as a best practice for booking in advance for these bad boys?
Well, I think the first thing you do is you write down which restaurants you would like to eat at. And then I think that it's important that you look at your list and you say, okay, which of these restaurants are the most popular? And you start making changes in your list so that you have the most popular at the top, and you work your way down. The other consideration, and if you can find this information, is which ones have the smallest dining room. We know that Le Cellier is pretty small, so that would be at the top of my list because it's small and because it's popular. So at that point, then once I have my list and I know what day I want to go to certain restaurants based on maybe my plans for touring the parks, I'm going to wait for that. It's 180 days, and I'm ready to make the call. I'd make the call first thing in the morning, and I would, make sure that I give every effort to make sure that I try it as soon as I can, so that I can book those restaurants. One of the things that I think people should be aware of, that they should realize that they may need to be flexible with their plans. So if they're planning to be in Epcot, let's say on let's say in November 26th, and they want to eat at Le Cellier, they may not be able to, but the next day they may be able to have lunch at Le Cellier, so they may need to adjust their plans. I think that many of us are finding that our plans are driven by restaurant availability instead of our touring plans of the park.
That's a great point, Mike. I know that certainly in the last few years, especially with the advent of the Disney Dining Plan, that's definitely been the case, where dining reservations have taken precedence almost even over like hotel or flight reservations at this point. Annette, what's your thoughts on booking dining reservations? How far in advance do you recommend?
180 days, definitely. If you can do it, some people have last minute trips and can't do that. But don't forget that if you're at a resort, you get that extra 10 days. So you can really take care of all of your days. If you're staying at a Disney resort, you can take care of all of that. One phone call, unless you're staying longer than 10 days. I think the other thing, the flexibility is key. And don't forget that several restaurants have dinner menus and they have lunch menus. They're not exactly the same. But if you can't get into that favorite restaurant for dinner, don't forget to ask about a late lunch.
Yeah.
Sometimes the lunch times can even go into 2:30, 3 o'clock. So, odd time to eat. But if you really wanted to get into your restaurant, be flexible.
I've heard a lot of great, not great, but I've heard a lot of talk lately on Twitter and all over the internet, really. It seems to be that walk-up dining is making a comeback in that there seems to be people are getting a lot more luck with walk-up dining reservations. On Scopa, you mentioned on the show we just did with you we recapped your previous trip where you were able to get a walk-up, just asking. And in these days we've been so regimented to assume that if you can't get an ADR, forget about it. There's absolutely no way, no how you're getting in that restaurant. But it kind of seems like there's a bit of a better glimmer of hope lately for walk-up reservations at even the most popular restaurants at Disney World.
I'm not sure if it was just accident or just good luck that the last couple of trips I've been pretty successful. Like I've had maybe an 80% success rate at walk-ups. And I'm talking about walking up to restaurants after I have called Disney Dining that morning and asked for an ADR. Yeah. So I struck out in the morning and I hit a home run when I got to the parks. So I don't know.
I've gotten lucky as well.
Yeah.
I've been able to walk up, of all places, Rose and Crown, outside. You would really think, for Illuminations, that's going to be booked solid.
Yeah.
No, I was able to walk right up, had a great table right there, get to eat and watch Illuminations at the same time.
Yeah,
and
you guys
walk up.
You guys aren't alone. I mean, it just seems like a lot more people are mentioning in passing just that, oh, yeah, I was able to get a walk up at this place or this place. And it's not like people are saying, oh, I can get a walk up at Beer Garden. Really? That's impressive, But, people are getting all sorts of places, like Annette just mentioned, Le Cellier even. It's kind of interesting to see how that's working. It's a great trend. I hope it continues and it makes it a little bit better because, one of the things about ADRs that makes it so complicated is that the fact that you have to plan out. Really, we do recommend making reservations as far in advance as possible. And Newell, I don't know about you, but I just don't plan what I'm going to be eating 6 months in advance. What are your thoughts on that whole system?
Yeah, lately, what I'll do is before I go, maybe 2 months out, I'll go online and see what's available. The only time I really overplan is when I want to go to Ohana, or even like you said earlier, Le Cellier. Some of the harder to get into restaurants. That's when I'll really overplan. Again, those are things that I want to go to.
Right.
Other than that, I'll walk up and plan by ear. It's a last minute thing, and I really don't get upset if I can't get into my favorite restaurant at a certain time.
How about let's talk about the resorts, the Disney resorts, and booking hotels in advance. Annette, what are your thoughts on booking in advance? What's your best practice in your estimation for booking a resort?
Well, especially if you've got a specific room type or a specific resort that you're after, especially like a Magic Kingdom view at the Contemporary, definitely the earlier you can book that, the better. Disney will allow you to book it at an estimated rate for up to almost 500 days in advance of your trip. So you could really be booking way, way ahead.
Oh, wow.
If you wanted to, but it'll be at an estimated rate. And then when they come out with their rates, like they just came out with 2011, we had people that were booked at estimated rates, room only, and they adjusted to the actual rates. So you don't really know what your rate's going to be, but if you're really after something special and you really want that special view, that special room that might sell out, then, it's better to go on and grab it, and then you can play around with it when the packages and when the rooms come out. If you're wanting a package with the dining and with tickets, you're going to have to wait until Disney comes out with those in August. So for 2011 has just come out a month ago.
That's always the game people play, and it seems Simpsons like, I want to go to Disney World here. It doesn't matter when in the year. And then they'll say, want to go then, but waiting for that annual pass discount rate, waiting for the new, package promotion, whatever it may be. How do you balance waiting for the best deal and getting that room that you really want?
It's one of those where we talk with our clients all the time about, can you be flexible? If you want to wait for an annual pass discount, it may come out, but it might not be the resort you want. or it might not be the exact dates you're going to travel. So you might have to adjust your dates a little bit to get those. We found that this year with the reunion.
Yep.
There were not a lot of annual passes available rates for the dates of reunion. So, those people that were waiting for them, you had to choose from like sports.
Right, but I got a great rate at sports during reunion, an AP rate. It was $54.
Yeah, we were able to adjust that one, but none of the moderates really had any kind of adjustment. So it's one of those where it is a game that you play, and that's why using a travel agent that's going to get there, book your room for you, and then continue to watch for discounts. If you're definite on your dates, you can always book and then have someone help you look for discounts that are coming out.
Scopo, what are your thoughts on booking in advance?
Yeah, I have a couple of thoughts. There are a lot of people who say, gee, I would really like to stay at a deluxe resort. So let's say you wanted to stay at the Polynesian. You never dreamed you could. But if you made reservations 14 and 15 months out for a week at the Polynesian, and every other month you threw money towards that reservation, and you paid it in full by the time you're leaving, that's not going to hurt as much as if you made it, let's say, 4 or 5 months in advance and you had to come up with the money. So that's another reason for booking well in advance, because you can pay for your room, along the way. So by the time your vacation comes, and you're right on the doorstep of your vacation, it's all paid for. So that's another advantage of booking as far in advance as possible. I booked one time as far as 2 years ahead one time, just so that I would have a painless paying schedule so that I could get it all paid up in time.
Now, let's not forget, we're talking about resorts here. There's a whole almost half of the people out there that don't fall into what we're just talking about. They're Disney Vacation Club owners. And there you've got an entirely different animal, because now you've got the home resort advantage, then you've got the regular window. Newell, why don't you kind of tell us your thoughts on booking DVC, because that's something that's totally different.
Well, with the home resort advantage, you only have 11 months out to book. So I couldn't do that, what Mike just did, with the 2 years. I'm looking now at rooms and availabilities for next July, because I want to secure, a bigger room. So, and the bigger rooms are harder to get because there's less of them. So I got to start planning now for July. And it also comes into play with airfares too. Don't forget, sometimes you get a better deal out further than you would closer to the to when you leave. And even with the train, I've been taking the train a lot, and I get a better rate a year out than I would if I booked 2 months out.
That's my understanding with the home resort advantage, which you can start booking 11 months ahead of time, whereas everywhere else you can start booking 7 months ahead of time.
Right.
Is it my understanding, am I correct, that you can, like, if your home resort is whatever, you can book from 11 to 8 months and a day in advance of someone else, but then on that 7-month window, boom, everyone else can join in?
But at 7 months, everybody's competing together.
Right.
So exactly. Let's say between 11 and 7. Let's
say we all want to look for a room in July. I have since I'm a home, my home resort is Oki West, I can book now. Whereas if you had, Saratoga Springs, you have to wait till January before you can book. And by then, all the homeowners or the home resort owners may have, got up all especially the smaller rooms. They may have all taken up all the studios and the one bedrooms. So, and that's the problem I'm having. I was looking for rooms for reunion, not a studio anywhere on DVC properties available. They were all gone.
Yeah, I saw that. A number of people lamenting about that.
And let me ask. And I booked. I started looking 2 months ago. So we're talking 6 months.
Yeah, something else to throw in there too is for listeners, DVC properties can be rented, I guess, or whatever. They can be purchased through travel companies. So
cash.
you have those people coming in as well, and they gradually release inventory into travel company packages. So even at 11 months, people at Saratoga Springs have other people that are paying for travel company packages at Saratoga Springs for a certain number of inventory, and that gradually increases as the year progresses as well.
Let me ask you this, guys, as the DVC owners. What's your opinion on the best practice, if it's not your home resort, do you is the best idea just to do it right at that 7-month window, like kind of like we recommend with dining, 180 days, just as soon as you can get it for DVC?
Yes, and actually, I got really lucky with being a home resort of Hilton Head. I was able to 7 months out get a 3-bedroom at Old Key West.
That's great.
That just really amazed me that we would be able to get a 3-bedroom, that close in, because those typically go pretty fast.
Interesting. Scopa, what's some other things that you for when we're talking booking in advance? What are some other things that come to mind for best practices?
Well, I'm thinking when this time of year, sooner. I'm not sure if I haven't checked yet, but the Candlelight Processional packages are probably going to be announced pretty soon. And
yes.
For those people who want specific, they want to see certain performances, they want to eat at a certain restaurant, a certain tiered restaurant. There's usually 3 tiers for the Candlelight Processional. As soon as they're announced, as soon as you know exactly where you want to go and where you want to eat and what performance, I would get on the horn and do that as soon as possible. Those things can be grabbed right away. So I think that's something you need to do your due diligence. Also, when you're talking about dinner packages, something like Hoop-de-Doo, or maybe the Luau, if you're so inclined to go to that. I think you want to get that as soon as you can. I know that for Hoop-de-Doo, I've gone to Hoop-de-Doo about 4 or 5 times, but the last time I went, I booked 1 year in advance, and I got center, first row, table 13, which is the best table in the house, and I chalked it up to being being there 12 months ahead, and I said, hey,
being number one.
number one on the list, I said. So I think you need to do that. I think you need, but again, it all comes into the planning aspect of a Walt Disney World vacation. You need to plan well in advance. You need to know what you want to do, and you need to be ready to flick that switch as soon as you can.
Another thing, 180 days, don't forget those fireworks cruises and those illumination cruises, if that's what you're wanting to do. Yep. You got to, it's kind of interesting because at that 180 day mark, you got to decide, is it the illumination cruise I want, or is it, the dining I want? You really have to play what's more important, or find some friends to help you out.
Yeah. Really with a lot of this stuff, and the more in advance you can book something, the better your chances of having every option available to you are. If you book like your resort a month out, it's not to say you can never get a resort. Obviously, there'll be something available, more than likely, I should say. But that being said, you might get to stay at a deluxe resort, but it might not be the Polynesian. Instead, you'll be at Wilderness Lodge, and you're going to have a garden view, which is a view of nothing. So if it's important to you where you stay and what you see, booking well in advance is important. Just like, if you're booking your tours, like Annette said, if you want to have a specific, maybe you definitely want that pontoon boat, and you definitely want it, to have the cake there and, this day and this time. But, the longer you wait, the more you run the risk of that option, your dream option of not being available. So really, if you can, it behooves you to book as far in advance as you possibly can. I think we'd all agree, though, that dining is probably the most important thing to book in advance.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it really comes into that. Followed probably by the resorts. Annette, would you agree with that?
Well, I would say resorts. However, if you've got that special, if you're doing a special, occasion or something like that, and you really wanted those illumination cruise, or you wanted the Grand, the yacht, there are some other things that might come into play a little before your resort, if you're not too picky about where you're staying.
Interesting. And we kind of briefly touched about. We've done episodes about this in depth. But airfare is also something else, and I don't have to deal with this anymore. But Skip, what are your thoughts on airfare these days?
You must have been getting my vibes, Matt, because I think we've talked about this. Once you get your room booked, then you can start looking at your air, and it's really you never know with the airfare. Mike was talking about booking ahead. Sometimes it's really good. You really make out well. And I don't think there's a rhyme or reason these days, because I booked in advance, and I have found myself canceling and rebooking as I get closer and closer. My recent trip, I wasn't going to go down. I thought about going down about 2 weeks ago. I said, no, it's just too expensive. And then bang, Southwest came up with 79 down and 79 back. And I grabbed it. But about 2 months prior to that, it was like $300 to go down there. So
yeah, it's crazy.
I don't know. I have no idea what's going on with the airlines these days. And the same thing holds for car rentals. I was helping someone look for a car rental rate the other day, and this person was only going down for a couple of days and had like $121 for like 4 days. And I said, no, that's something better. And then something came through Alamo, bang. I sent it to the person, and then now it's $30 cheaper, and they're like closer to going. So I don't know. I don't know if I guess my point is booking way in advance. As far as your air goes, I'm not sure if that's going to pay off like it used to. It used to pay off years ago. Same thing with car rentals. If you booked well in advance, you got the best rate. As you got closer, when cars were not as available, then the rates were higher. There's just no rhyme or reason as to how the airlines and the car rental agencies are working these days. So I'm not sure if I would say yes, book far in advance for those two things.
Yeah, if you're going to do far in advance, like with airfare, you want some kind of either refundable air, or you want something where you can cancel and rebook if it lowers. And again, with the car rentals, constantly recheck that. I've actually checked car rentals in the morning and turned around the afternoon, and it was cheaper in the afternoon than it was that very same morning. So you never know. It's luck of the draw. So on those, I just keep checking.
Yeah, you definitely, if you can, book with an airline that has a no rebooking fee for your flights. I know that Southwest definitely does. I believe JetBlue does as well. There's no rebooking fees. You just pay the difference in the fare, and obviously if the price drops, then you get usually a credit back. You don't get money back, but it's still better than paying a fee. And actually I did some research online. I think Alaska Airlines also, but I'm no Becky Menken, so I'm not sure about that. But if you can, that's a great way to do it, because that way you can book it at whatever price just to make sure you have a decent rate. And then if it drops, hey, great, you get to rebook and save some credit, and you'll use it at some other point, I'm sure. Well, that's going to do it for us today. I want to remind all of our listeners that this episode of WDW Today is being sponsored by WDWWallpaper.com, which has pictures from Walt Disney World on your iPhone, iPad, or iTouch for just 99 cents on iTunes. Enjoy the magic of Disney World every day. WDW Pics brings over 40 high-quality photos to your device to use as backgrounds and wallpapers. Wallpapers from the Magic Kingdom, Animal Kingdom, Disney's Hollywood Studios, Epcot, and the Disney Resorts. Disney World images right on your iPhone or iPad, WDWWallpaper.com. If you want to find our older episodes, read our show notes, or send us your comments, you can visit us online at www.wdwtoday.com. I forgot the rest. Thank you. For Mike Newell, Len Testa, Mike Scopa, and the fabulous Annette Owens, I am Matt Hochberg. We'll see you on the next show.
Stupid Judy, stupid energy.
This has been a production of Mouse World Radio.